Mostly I love robots, and so I was talking to the director who has lots of really good scripts that he's never produced because he's so busy producing the other ones. And he said that he had one that had to do with robots, so I wanted to read it, and read it, and it was really good. It's morphed since then. I mean, it morphed into a totally different direction.
Well, wait, how did it start? What was its original starting thing? Was it Planet Crash or something?
Yeah, it was called Planet Crash, and it had more to do with a journey. She was more of a mechanic in that, and then it kind of morphed over into her being well, now she's a former pleasure robot, and she doesn't know that. And so it's kind of, what I liked about the script, besides the fact that it had to do with robots, was that it has a lot of different angles and depths and twists, and so she goes through these different stages, and she ultimately becomes very different than how she started out, and there's all the various things that affect her. And us as actors, we love things that affect us. We love to be affected, so I think that was, I loved the direction that it ended up in, more so than where it started out, even though I loved where it started out. My father ran the largest power electronics convention in the world when I was a kid. And so we would go to these conventions and help him out. And I developed this fondness for Edith Cam, who was head of robotics. I mean, in our nation, she was like top of it. And so after the conventions, and I got to be really close with her over the years, and then I would go and view her warehouses and stuff. And so I actually studied to go into computer science and was very interested in going into that industry myself. But I was acting a lot. I didn't have time to finish college. So that didn't quite work out, but it worked out another way. Yeah. And I got to go play with robots later, so had a happy ending. I think it's inevitable. I think that, where robotics started out, even when I was a kid, they had the walking, talking. Of course, they were controlled by somebody. Now they've, now even look at our iPhones. I mean, they kind of think for themselves. They're trained to think for themselves. And so as everything grows, it's artificial intelligence. I mean, we've taught them how to think, and there are actual computer structures that are taught how to think, and they progress and they learn from themselves. And so that becoming something that could overtake humanity, I would say that would be a really definite possibility at some point in time. It depends on how long human beings evolve and live, but artificial intelligence grows faster than we do, even though we started it. So it being able to think itself, think beyond what we can think, when it gets to that point, I can see that it would be a realistic thing. Gosh, where are we as far as relevance now? You have to stop and think about that, It could happen. I mean, of course, in a situation where I just spent the last many, many weeks feeling that it was real, so it's kind of hard to separate what I just experienced from what our reality is. But I don't think that in science fiction movies that we would be writing about these possibilities if they weren't things that we actually had fears of, if they weren't things that couldn't actually happen in real life. So yes, I would say it's a possibility. A probability, I don't know. I can't really guess that. But then again, I just finished living through that, so that's still kind of real to me. Well, I mean, first of all, when you're talking about what mindset was I in, I mean, I had the director put, the robot that I worked opposite in my office so that it could become real to me, because it has to be real to you. And before we started shooting, and you have this mindset where you're actually afraid of them. They actually are stronger than us, faster than us, more powerful than us. And so it was trying to put an end to that. But my character also had parts of her that were coming up inside of her that were interfering with that, so to speak. And then she had the inner struggle of once she figures out who she is and what she basically is. And so that's a very confusing journey. It's a very confusing journey to, first of all, be believing it, because in order to perform it, you have to actually believe it. And second of all, to be living through that transformation of yourself. And so it's a very confusing place, but it's a fun journey. It's a fun place to go to. What I had to do is I had to actually take the script, and I had to divide it by color codes and divide it by timelines. So, because when you shoot it out of sequence like that, so I had to remind myself, okay, at this point I know this, that, and the other thing. At this point this had happened, but and at this point I knew what I was, and at this point I also knew that. So I had to actually divide it by color so that I could have an emotional reaction to it when I looked at the script without having to go through the journey in my head. I just immediately knew what that color meant to me. I know it's an interesting way to do it, but it's just how I like to do things. And I think I had 6 colors. We grow up as actors, and a lot of times when you work on the bigger productions, you're acting opposite like a Diet Coke can. So you kind of learn to make that very real. And I had it so real inside my head that I almost found those scenes easier because I already knew how he was going to react. So I could already play that journey in my head. And so when I worked opposite Hoagland, I memorized his lines too. And that way I already knew what I was thinking and how to react and stuff, because sometimes we didn't even have the lines going on at the time. So sometimes I had to just replay it through my mind. So it was kind of almost like doing a monologue and reaction, but reacting to Hoagland. And sometimes he wasn't in the scene at all. You know, sometimes we had him in the scene, but sometimes he wasn't there at all. But it's make-believe. I love make-believe. I grew up make-believe. And so I would say it was difficult figuring out how I was going to do it, you know, thinking it through. And then I think that when I spent time with the actual robot and kind of personified him, I had to kind of give him a personality. And so it was funny too, if somebody else read Hoagland's lines, it would sometimes, you know, screw me up. And we had, what is his name? Jeff Beechnow. And when he read Hoagland's lines, it was so easy for me to personify it because he didn't put a lot of inflection in it, and he's very consistent. And so then I was able to play inside my head the pre-recorded story of how that was going to unfold and how I was going to react to him. My first reaction to Daz was he scared the shit out of me. It was like, I mean, he's a really big guy, and he's really strong, and strong features and everything, and he's got a voice that's he has a commanding presence to his voice. And yeah, I'd watched his audition tape, and he was really the only one that I had any sort of emotional reaction to. And the director said, well, what's your emotional reaction to him? And I said, he scares me. He goes, oh, good. It was like, it was difficult, not just because of that, but also because I personally know Ashley through the acting community, and I've known her for several years, and she's a really good soul. And so it was difficult because I had to be kind of abusive towards her, you know, in certain times. I mean, I lost my temper with her a lot. I had to swear at her a lot. And that I didn't expect it to be difficult. I thought, oh, I know Ashley. This will be kind of fun. You know, I love her. She's a great person. And she certainly personified the role. I mean, she's beautiful, and she's just everything that was in the script. But I found that it was difficult being harsh towards her. I had to almost kind of apologize to myself afterwards. And a couple times I said, oh, Ashley, I'm so sorry I said that to you. Or if I had something else that I wanted to add into it, I'd run it past the director. I go, you know, I think this would be kind of interesting if I said this because of, and then I'd run it past Ashley. I go, I need to let you know that I'm going to be saying this to you, because I didn't want her feelings to get hurt as a person. You know, you never know with actors. Like me as an actor, somebody could say anything, and I don't let it affect me. But other actors are different, and so I just kind of, yeah, that was hard, yeah. And that was interesting. I mean, Tim was a great actor, and I did have to be pretty rough on Tim also. We also had a lot of fun, like in the drinking scene and stuff like that. We really had a blast in that. But the scene where I throw him to the ground, and I don't really want to get into what was happening in that scene because it gives away a little bit of the plot, I believe. But I had to really feel those emotions and things, and I'm choking him. And then on his close-up, he really wanted it to be really good, and he goes, no, I need you to really choke me. And I'm like, so we had to come up with a safe word. So we came up with the word purple. So if it was like, if he couldn't breathe and he was really going to pass out, because I'm very aggressive, I'm very physical, even though I'm a small person, I'm very physical. And sometimes when you're going through your character, you don't stop to think, oh, am I hurting them? Especially where they're asking you to actually be that more that way. And so, but then after a while, it got to be kind of fun to beat up on Tim. I don't know why. I got really familiar with him. So there were lots of places where I was supposed to hit him, but then I got to the point where I wanted to hit him. So there's a few parts, we'll have to see if it's in the final version, there's a few parts where I'm like, can I hit him here too? And then sometimes I just did it, and I did it every take, so it would definitely be in there because I thought it was funny. After a while, I started to kind of feel her relationship, and that relationship developed. And as that happened, then you start doing things that those characters would do once it had developed. Yeah, Stephen Manley, he's great. I mean, he can really find that character deep, and I was really happy to see that, because he was one of the few actors that we hadn't read, just because who he is. You know, he's a great actor, and he was just so much fun to work opposite. And I like the way that he really wanted to. He really wanted to identify our relationship and our scenes before we did them, which is really, really helpful. And so we'd sit there and we'd talk about our relationship and how we felt about certain things, and so I think that made it really interesting once it finally hit on camera, you know, because we were very, very clear before we even shot a frame of what our relationship was and how we felt about everything. Yeah.
What was he known for?
Spock, Star Trek 3, young Spock. Yeah, I mean, how exciting is that, right? I got to work with young Spock. But his performance, I have to say, was even more than I think we ever anticipated. Yeah, some of it's because of the mental place that he's in right now in his life, but it was sure working for him. Yeah, we needed to find a young girl, and the one catch is at some point in time that throughout the script that her eyes actually get transplanted into mine. And so our eyes needed to be very similar. We had lots of girls that were willing to do this, and she had to be, badly burned and all these other things, prosthetically. And so it was like, we had some girls and we were like, oh, well, we'll just use this person. We'd gotten them from my manager. And then it was like, you know what, let's look and see if we can really find somebody that has my eyes. How cool would that be on screen? And so we put out the call and, with a picture so that people could be like, oh, I have her eyes. And everybody thought they had my eyes, which was hilarious. I mean, they've got a lot of people that didn't have my eyes that submitted. And there were about, I'd say like 15 of them where their eyes looked really similar to mine as a child. And then I clicked on this one and she looked like me as a child. And I was like, ooh, that was kind of creepy, It was like, so I ran downstairs and I showed the director. I'm like, you got to check this out. This girl looks like I did as a kid at one stage in my life. And that was Livy Steibenroch, who's young Anna in Frozen. So that was kind of exciting. And she signed on right away. She was really excited about it. She loved the job. She did a fabulous job. I loved that girl. Her favorite person was Michael Martin, who actually, he has, I think, just a few lines in it. He plays the doctor. But he was a ninja. He's a real ninja. And she was really impressed by that because he taught her how to stand to shoot a gun and stuff like that. And she was so excited. So much fun. I got a thank you note from her mom, and that was the thing that she said was the most exciting for her. Yeah. And so much of it was physicality. So much of it was running and falling. And I mean, even when we were out at the Salton Sea with everybody else, it was, throwing yourself up against walls and falling down and stumbling into broken down buildings. And so there was a lot of bruising. There were a lot of war wounds, My knee was all swollen up from, one of them. And it's just, but I'm one of those people, I love my war wounds, so I photographed them all. Like, oh, I have pictures of my knee. Oh, I have pictures of this, And then when we went to Yuma, we went to the talc mines, we went to Trona Pinnacles. I mean, we were kind of all over the place. And it was just a lot of physicality, a lot of falling, a lot of heavy winds and heat and, some of those scenes that look like were nice and cool or whatever. I have ice packs shoved down my shirt and down my back. And it was like, and then sometimes I'm carrying a dog. So I'm in a ski jacket, and the ski jacket was made for 0 temperatures. And I'm in this outfit that's made of neoprene. And, I'm holding a dog. And that's, got to be equivalent to a couple hundred degrees. And I did it with a smile on my face. I just used ice packs. Aaron, who plays Tycho in the movie, Aaron Jacques, is actually my son. And it was kind of his return to movie making. He grew up in the industry and he did quite a bit, mostly commercial when he was younger, but a lot. And he had just come back, and he'd come back with this cute little dog, moved back home, decided to return to California. And the director was talking to him and he was like, okay, next thing I know, there's a Tycho in the script, right? So that's where that came from. And then the script originally had a baby. So we would have needed a baby, and we would have needed probably an electronic baby in order to, use when the baby isn't showing. And then all of a sudden the baby became a dog. So, and Moose was fantastic on screen too. I mean, Aaron was great. I was so thrilled with what Aaron did, because you get a little nervous. Oh gosh, I haven't been in front of a camera in 10 years. And then it just was him. So it was fabulous. And then Moose, so we decided to use Moose. Moose was really funny. We'd have to do things to get him to react. The director would throw dirt on the windshield so the dog go, But after a while, it was funny because certain things would actually startle the dog. And one of the scenes, we see an explosion, and I grab the dog and throw myself up against something, and the dog's actually biting me and growling and barking and everything. I'm like, eeks! So that was pretty fun. The dog started to get a little tired towards the end of the shoot, though. And I think it's because our characters had become so evolved, and it was so real to us now, everything, that the dog started to get scared. So we're supposed to be driving erratically, and the dog's like, ugh. And at first the dog was like, oh, cool, we're going four-wheel driving, And then I started to notice the dog's little heart was beating really hard and stuff. And so I said to the director, I said, I'll go do these scenes with the car and stuff like that. But I think we ought to give the dog a break because it's all too real for him now. It's like, because we're all living this now. We're not acting it anymore. And yeah, so it was pretty funny. Well, it takes place in the same universe as Starship, but I also believe it takes place in the same universe as most movies that Neil Johnson does. It keeps them within the same universe. And which is nice because there can be tie-ins and things can overlap in certain ways, and there's storylines that can be gained watching his movies, even if they're not meant to be side by side, where there's things that will unfold that you'll see in the other movies. I know just in some of the things that I've seen of his that, like, you know, you'll hear the Overlord, and you'll have these themes that go through the movies, even though if you're just watching the movie, you may not realize it. So that's a good reason why you should watch all of his movies instead of just watching one or watching a series, because there's these little underlying things. Plus he has even props and things that he's had in all of his movies. And so, you know, you can kind of go through and pick them out. And it's interesting. There's a lot more than meets the eye. We shot in the same place they shot Return of the Jedi. How cool is that, right? That was probably, gosh, it would go between the most fun and the most challenging. That day, those days, because, okay, so this is how it went. So the director would say, "You see that sand dune way up there?" And I go, "Yes." And he'd go, "Okay, I need you to go up to the top of that, and I need you to walk around it first, you know, because you don't want to leave footprints. And then this is what I need you to do, okay?" And, you know, it's a lot of activity with things that aren't there again, so we're creating it inside of our minds, which, of course, I didn't get right on the first try. And so it's like, okay, go back up to the top and do it again. And as you're walking up, your boots are sinking this far in the sand, and they're filling up with sand. And so your feet are like 10 pounds heavier each foot. And so it's really, really hard. And so you're going up and down and up and down. But it's so much fun. You get to roll and carry on. And the guns are all banging into you. You're covered in bruises. And you get up and do it again. And so that was, so then I got to the point, he was yelling, "Action, action, action." And I'm like, I can't hear you. The winds are howling. Everything's blowing. I was the only one out there without sunglasses because it would look silly to have my character running through the desert with sunglasses. So I'm getting pelted with sand in my eyeballs. It's filling my ears. And he'd go, "I said action." I go, "I didn't hear you, you know." So he came up with this symbol, and he goes, "Okay, well, when I put my arm up like this," he goes, "that means action." I go, "Okay, when I stand up, it means I can do it again." Because I would be so tired from crawling back up there. I'd sit down there huffing and puffing, and I'd be like, "Okay, I can do this again now." So it was really fun. There was a big sandstorm on the second day of shooting, but it just about makes it unbearable because you can't open your eyes. I mean, one time I actually walked to the top of the hill with my sunglasses on and then stuck my sunglasses down my shirt. But then when I was running and rolling, the sunglasses scratched me, so that wasn't such a good idea. But yeah, it was pelting. I mean, I have no idea how hard those winds were going, maybe 50, 60 knots, something like that, with that soft, light sand. And so, yeah, it was challenging and fun, so much fun. I think especially because I love science fiction, so I've always seen it, but I wasn't, besides watching making ofs and stuff, I mean, experiencing it is a completely different thing. And so, first of all, I didn't realize how these things were built. I mean, I got to watch it all be built and stuff like that. That was really exciting. And second of all, you're in a spaceship like this, and it all has to be real, and your buttons and your this, and so much is being done in post. So, you know, the things are going to pop up later, and all these. You're having to just kind of live that, and it's at first it's challenging, and then after, and carrying the big guns too. That's the same thing. I mean, it's not something you do every day. Not just one gun, but you've got your las welder and your gun, and then you've got your big gun, and then you've got your super big gun, and then you've got your nuke blaster. I mean, you've got like all these. Oh, you got a knife too. I forgot I had a knife too. So, you know, it's just different. You also have to learn how to shoot all of these things and how to hold them all, and they're all different, you know. But then you're in a spaceship and you're having these journeys, and then you have like the space bed, and you have the space this and the space that for your different scenes, and they have to be real for you. And what they really need to be real for is for the viewer. And so, you know, they build these sets like this, and then it has to become real to you in order for it, once everything else gets done, to feel real to the viewer. But it's fascinating. And then watching the lighting and everything else, and how they do the lighting. And a funny thing about this one, this is the Chastity 9, is that Daz, who played Skull Crusher in the film, was taller than this. So he couldn't even stand all the way up in here. And we cast him after this was built. So it was so funny because after a while I'd be following him in and out the door, and I'm bending over inside, and I'm like, oh, wait a minute, I can stand up. I've just been watching Daz too much because he's like this all the time. It was funny. It's all really funny. I would say that was the most fun movie. Yeah, before that I had another one, but that was the most fun I've ever had. Most definitely, yeah.
You worked with the director before on a couple of things, At the Edge of Time.
I worked with the director on At the Edge of Time, and that one's in post right now too. I love working with him. He's very good at working with actors. I got mad at him a couple of times, like if I needed more than a couple of takes, because I'm kind of known for getting my takes really early on. And he'd go, no, I just really... And then I'd be so appreciative because of where we got to, you know. And he's just really, really easy to work with. And he really knows his stuff. I feel bad for the rest of the people in the world that want to make science fiction movies because it's... unless you have an absolutely gigantic budget, I don't think anybody else can do what he does.
Was actually in a TV series for a good friend of mine named David Jacobs, who created the original Dallas. And there was a television episode of a series I was in for him called The Secrets of Midland Heights. And Leonard Nimoy saw me in that episode of that series where I was trying to get in touch with my mom, who had passed away, by getting in touch with her through a fortune teller at a carnival. And that was the episode that he saw me and that he thought I would be right to play young Spock. There were several of us who played young Spock. There was a 6-year-old, there was a 10-year-old, and then there was me. I played him at 17 years old. And then there were 2 shots where there was a young guy who was 25 years old. And then he goes down, and then Leonard Nimoy comes up. But I seem to get the lion's share of the young Spock stuff because I got to do Pon farr sex with Saavik, which is wonderful. And I won't forget it. And she called me up in, I think it was June 1983. And she said, Leonard Nimoy wants to see you. They're getting ready to do another Star Trek film. And I went in, and he had my picture on the desk. And I must have had about a 1-hour interview with him. It really wasn't an audition. He started to talk to me about my career, my history, and the episode that he saw me on. And he said, you know something? He said, this is Star Trek 3. He said, there's a very, very sensitive scene. You're going to be playing a Vulcan. He said, I'm not going to tell you who it is right away. But he said, there's a very sensitive scene in there where we're going to show the sex ritual Pon farr. It's a very sensitive thing. I really want it to stay in the film. And I need an actor like you. I saw what you had done in that other episode, and I think you can bring to it what I want. So he talked to me about Pon farr. He talked to me about they didn't show it really in the original series, and that he wanted to take it a little bit farther. He told me who I would be working with, and we just had a great conversation for quite a long time. By the end of that conversation, he said, Steve, you've got it. He said, I want you for it. He said, your eyes are blue. They've got to be brown. He said, can we put contact lenses in your eyes? I said, absolutely, sure, no problem. He said, you'll have to have molds of your ears. Fine, terrific. I had studied some special effects makeup and things like that, you know. I just always thought that was part of an actor's repertoire that he should have, sort of like my grandfather with his old makeup kit. And we had a great talk. Like I said, it went on for quite some time. The last time that I had seen him, he actually looked pretty frail to me. That was a couple of years ago in Las Vegas at a Star Trek convention, you know. It was upsetting for me to see him in a scooter to get from one place to the other. He still had his magnificent voice, but, you know, I just had that feeling that, you know, he's not going to be around very much longer. But I carry all the feelings of working with him for years. It was a wonderful set. He was a wonderful director. Great guy. I'm grateful that he fought for our big scene to be in there, and I'll always be grateful for that because it gave me something to share with the fans, you know. But I really liked him a lot. I'm sad that he's gone. I think he's probably in a better place, and something? I'll always carry the feeling of him very warmly and grateful. When I went back for a look, they had Joe Davis, who played him at 25 years old, for a couple of shots, myself, and then Leonard Nimoy, and we kind of stood in a lineup, and Harve Bennett walked in, and he kind of looked at us, and I put it together. I said, he's coming back, and he's going to come back from a younger age and get older. And Leonard said, yeah, don't tell anybody. And no, absolutely not. I respected all of what he wanted me to keep secret.
Obviously the film was called A Search for Spock.
Right.
Wasn't that big a secret?
Yes. But they weren't telling anybody it was Search for Spock. They just said it was Trek 3. I also knew that Leonard Nimoy was under an awful lot of pressure. It was the first feature film he had ever directed, and it had a substantial budget. A lot of the special effects were being done by ILM, Lucasfilm, and so there was a lot of talk on the set about what was ILM going to do, what were they going to shoot practically. They had everything storyboarded, very specific. But Leonard Nimoy was very much an actor's director. He's an actor himself, and he wanted the performances to be very, very sensitive. He spent a lot of time with Robin Curtis and I going over the Pon farr ritual. I mean, exhaustive with that. There was a lot that we rehearsed that didn't end up in the film, and as a matter of fact, I just found a picture on the internet that showed one of the pieces that was cut from the movie. She was actually not only touching my fingers, but Robin's a very passionate woman, and she was actually touching my face a lot and touching my shoulders and my neck and stuff like that. And I'm very grateful because Leonard Nimoy said that one of the executives who had quite a bit of clout laughed at the sequence. He wasn't really a Star Trek person. He didn't understand the universe. And he said, cut that out. That's boring. That's going to kill our film. And Leonard said, no, absolutely not. And he fought to keep that scene in. And I'm grateful for it because I have a whole line of beautiful fans that walk up to my table and every single one of them want me to Pon farr with them. How did it impact me in later life? Well, there's a story behind that. Robin was a little bit older than I was. I recognized her. She had been a model, and she had done, I believe it was the Oil of Olay campaign in commercials. And she was a beautiful woman. She's very tall. I think she's 5'10", 5'11", and once she was in all of her get-up, she was a sexy Vulcan woman. Robin is also very, very passionate, very, very emotional, and so she worked a lot with Leonard to hold a lot of her emotions back and keep them in check. And I remember several, asides where Leonard would say, come on over here, Robin, and they would talk, and she would say, but I want to do this, and I want to do that. And he says, I know you want to, but you've got to suppress that somehow and do it in another way, And she would take a drag of her cigarette. I remember she smoked cloves, and she'd say, okay, And when we got to the Pon farr ritual, I remember him getting quite detailed with her about it. And I remember her looking over at me and she'd saying, okay, I'm going to take care of him. And she'd sit down and get on her knees and we would block this thing out. And it was actually very, it was passionate. I had a beautiful woman who was a little bit older than I was, who was stroking my hands and my face. And she did a great job, and we had a connection there. And I didn't see Robin for many, many, many years later until I did my first Star Trek convention in 2005, I believe. And they placed her autograph table right next to mine. And a couple of the fans would come up and say, I want you guys to Pon farr. And she'd say, oh my God, I feel like I'm doing something pornographic. Oh, And we just went right back to it, Of course, I was a lot older then, and come here, Robin, I need some Pon farr, Because of my background, because my grandfather knew a lot of people, and because I had already worked for several years, I knew a lot of people on that set. So when I showed up, they said, Steve's playing XYZ. So, for instance, the wardrobe man, I had known him from an episode of Little House on the Prairie I had worked on. So he was there for me. I knew of Wes Dawn and the Dawn makeup family. Wes Dawn did my ears for the first couple of days, and he came from a makeup family that goes back to the Wizard of Oz, so I was asking him about his family, and he knew some of the people that my grandfather knew. Who else? The stunt guys. One of them was on the Hindenburg that I had worked on, so he remembered me. So I had people on that set that I knew. So say, for instance, if I was walking on a part of the Genesis planet that had a trap door that fire was coming out of, the stuntman would say, Steve, there's a door over there. Walk here. Don't go walk there. When this blast goes off, move your head this way. So it was very, very comfortable. A couple of the grips knew who I was, so I always stood in for my own lighting, which made it very easy for them. So I had been around. I knew people, so I wasn't so alone on that set. I'm a fan of my own things, so I understand. I left the Star Trek world for many, many years and did my very first Star Trek convention in 2005. Robin Curtis said, where the hell have you been? Everybody's been asking me for years where my Ponfar lover is, But the fans are wonderful and very passionate. I think it offers them an escape. And, when you're in the film business and you're in entertainment, sometimes it's hard for an actor or a director or a writer to look at people who are not in entertainment and see not how they live, but how they can live without that creative artistic slant in their life. But when you go to a convention and you see someone who is maybe a Wall Street trader, or somebody who works in a fast food place, or somebody who is a nurse, or somebody who works in a post office, you see that they have a passion for the sci-fi world or universe that they love so much, and they spend that whole week at that convention totally immersed in it, and it gives them that escape, and it gives them that fantasy, and it gives them that other life to hang on to, And I respect that an awful lot. And I was grateful after so many years that the people remembered who in the heck I was. I really was. I have some wonderful fans. There's about a half a dozen or so beautiful fan ladies that I see every single year, and I love every single one of them, I don't think it's a weird quirk. I think I truly believe things happen for a reason, now. I had been thinking of Leonard Nimoy, and I found out, sadly, that he did pass away. And then all of a sudden, Robot Armageddon, a day or so later, comes to the table for me, and there was absolutely no question that I was going to participate. I was so grateful to get the call from you and to participate in your film. Your work is so impressive. Absolutely no question. I had fans for many years at the Star Trek convention say, you've got to do some more sci-fi. You've got to do some more sci-fi, and this was the opportunity to get back into it and have another credit on my resume and a whole nother universe, Neil Johnson's universe, which has a following, to go into. Absolutely wonderful to work with Tracy Birdsall. My goodness, you couldn't have a more wonderful, more beautiful, more passionate leading lady to work with, and I think she fit the role of Sienna wonderfully. She brought a sensitivity to Sienna that I could see, and in several of the scenes, just looking at her in her eyes, I saw tremendous depth, and we were able to work together and feed off each other's energy very, very well, and I really enjoyed it quite a bit. She's a wonderful lady. I saw a little bit of desperation with Ralston. I saw him as kind of a resistance movement leader, so to speak, in the future against all of the onslaught of this AI technology, So I kind of equated him with a French resistance fighter, in a way, from World War II, but obviously in the future, and Tracy Birdsall is so beautiful, and she is playing the pleasure robot, and he had a relationship with his pleasure robot, but at the one point he had to look for some place safe to put his daughter's consciousness and found her to be the safest place to put his daughter, Annika. Yes, it is an unusual film. I think it's a very sensitive film. It's a very warm film. There's a lot of sadness with the Ralston character, I believe, too, which I tried to bring to it, and at the end, with the Sienna character, I mean, eventually, what transpires, and she has to go and find herself. There's a lot of loss in this film, quite a bit, but honored and grateful that you asked me to bring this character to life for you. So I tried to infuse him with a lot of things that are, as an actor, you draw upon things from your life, and you try to, substitute them or infuse all of these emotions and experiences to make them more realistic for the filmmaker, so that you, Neil, have something real, even if it's in an unreal fantasy world. What I bring to you has to be real so that you believe it,
When did I discover I wanted to act? As when I first moved to London, I was asked to go on to a movie set and be an extra, which I didn't know what an extra was. And they sold me, said it's great, this, that, and the other.
They built you up.
Oh yeah, it's great. I said, okay, I'll go there. 6 weeks as an extra. On the first day I got there, they took me to makeup and wardrobe, gave me a beard and a wig. It was like a Greek historical type movie.
Wig on you.
Oh, it was long, flowing, dark wig, tunic like a dress type thing, blah, blah, blah. And there were about 300 extras. And then I waited and waited and waited and waited. And I was bored. I thought, this is not very good. And I remember about 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon, a couple of actors came trolloping out of this door onto the set. And I remember watching them. And I was thinking, well, who are these guys? And it was Powers Booth and Eric Roberts, Julia Roberts' brother. And they did their little scene, and then they trolloped off. And they were on the set for about 10 minutes, and I thought, I've been here for 6 hours, and you have just come out to do that? That is where I want to be. So I was talking to a girl on the set who just does extra work all the time, nothing else, just extras all the time. And she said, Daz, you can't do this, you need to go to drama school, blah, blah, blah. So I didn't go back to the set the next day. I never showed up again, and then I went to drama school.
So you left him hanging.
That was it. They didn't need me, there were 300 of them. Why would they need me? I was just one of nobody. So yeah, that was the beginning. I never looked back.
So you talked a little bit about that journey. You were talking about how many hours you put into it and stuff.
Oh, I went
tell
to
everybody that 'cause it's very impressive.
Yeah, I went to drama school. I had 3 different teachers. A guy from LA, a lady from New York, and a British teachers. And even though the school was 40 hours a week, I used to do 100 hours a week. I would do homework every night. Some of the teachers would stay with me. It was a nighttime class that finished at 10 o'clock. They would stay with me till 2 in the morning. And they would take me down to the depths of where you need to go, to places that people who don't study and don't learn this art and this craft, where you need to go. And I did, like I said, I did it for about 6 years. And even now, you don't know everything. Nobody knows everything. You're still learning every day. Emotions, because it's all those emotions you need to learn to put in your pocket and save them for when you get scenes and moments in scripts that are difficult to find, What are the highlights of my career? Wow, I've had some great jobs, amazing jobs. Being a baddie in a James Bond movie with Pierce Brosnan was great. I learned to speak Russian, it's impossible, Mr. Bond. Blade 2 with Wesley Snipes, 3 months in Prague, another dream. I remember being on the Bond film more because that was very early in the days when I very first started acting. And I probably wasn't thinking like an actor should think because I wasn't trained or studied or anything like that. I remember being on the set, and everything was set. It was there's always a casino scene in a James Bond film, and it was the casino scene in The World Is Not Enough. And I remember Pierce walking in and said to me, I want to speak to Valentine Sokovsky, which is Robbie Coltrane. And I remember looking at him thinking, Daz, you're a villain in a James Bond film. Not what I should have been thinking as a real actor who's trained and studied. And I was laughing to myself thinking, and I was thinking, Daz, you're a guy from Liverpool, you're a villain in a Bond film, you're not going to be immortal. And that was a moment, I never forget that moment. And we went on and did the scene, that was the rest of that. That was just a good little moment. Booking the role for Blade, Blade 2 was a great moment. Some little jobs I've done, have been good moments for me. I booked a commercial, went to Buenos Aires. I love traveling, and spending a week in Buenos Aires was amazing, and being treated like a king for a week. So there are lots of different moments, when you work on a set, even on, movies such as this, smaller movies. When you first go on the first day, you don't know what the team of people are going to be like, the other actors, you don't know what it's going to be. And very quickly you can realise, you can go home at night and think, what a great team. This is going to be good fun, and you can enjoy the days or weeks. But you don't know that until you start, and for me, this was a great job, small job, but it was a really good moment. I can go away and set a brilliant time when the movie comes out and say, yeah, I remember all those people like yesterday, and I had a great time. And I've worked with quite a lot of directors. I like Neil because he's very hands-on. He's very visual with his description. I like that. I mean, at the end of the day, we bring a lot to the table, but he doesn't know what we're going to bring to the table until we bring it. But then when, I was listening to him and watching him, he makes it he simplifies a lot of things and makes it flow very easy. So I would say, I've no qualms working with him again. Yeah. Good director, good guy, and a good guy outside of work as well. I like him. The fact that he's a Brit as well helps.
It does, doesn't it?
Do I think artificial intelligence will dominate mankind? No, I don't think it will. I think what we will do in the future is give AI more power to do things for us, but we'll always have the off switch. You have to have an off switch. In every piece of equipment out there, there are passcodes to get in them, even when they're locked.
Well, I think that's what this is about, where it's like they kind of overtook, like they didn't stop, and that's why we're out there.
Well, that's because, that's in the scenario that we've been given in this situation for this movie is we've given the robots the power to be not switched off. Mm-hmm. So that is where we have to be careful as humans, not to give them that power, because that could happen. I mean, it's going to be a long, long, long way off if it ever happens. But it's a good question. But some great locations, good, like I said, good people, good production. The lead girl, can't remember her name now. Anyway, she was very aggressive, as you may see. Smells like perfume. Very aggressive, but no, honestly, overall, great time, great people, good people. The crew were a bit offish at first, very quiet, but they came around in the end and warmed up, and they were cool. But then it's like that when you first meet people, you don't really know how to take people.
Well, they don't know how to take you either.
Yeah, and
you are 6'5".
Yeah, I'm 6'5".
You intimidate people just a little bit.
And I'm a bit of a joker, and that can come across. And I've got a dry sense of humour.
No.
Wind your neck in. No, but overall, brilliant. Great. The Salton Sea, well, to people who've never heard of it before, it's got an amazing history. And I'd never heard of it before, and I was absolutely amazed, gobsmacked, as we would say in the UK, at the scenery, the eeriness, atmosphere. You know, the whole place is covered in sulfur, which is salt from the sea. It's just an amazing, you know, people would need to go on and do some research about that, how the sea is evaporating away. It's going to eventually be just dry salt, just land, you know. People are a bit strange down there.
Aren't they though?
Yeah, people are a bit strange, but nice,
Very
you know.
nice.
Very nice, but, you know, they're in their own little world, which is great. I wouldn't live there. The days I was there was enough. I would go back there to work. But, you know, when I looked around at the like I said, the scenery and it was almost like there were sets made for movies. Pre-made. The buildings were old, sunk.
Abandoned.
Yeah, abandoned. Just, you know, wrecks. But really, really great. You could be on the moon. You could be on Mars. You could be anywhere. You could be anywhere. It was good. I had a good time. Considering what it was good. And I think because I had low expectations, I never really have any expectations. I was actually surprised that the hotel room was nice. Yeah. Everything was nice.
Last movie it wasn't. That's why it was nice this time.
Right, okay. Sorry. I love science fiction.
Yeah.
Or growing up as a child, Star Trek was... Who didn't watch Star Trek?
Right.
You know, that is the epitome, to me, of science fiction. It is... And things that are in Star Trek from back when it started are actually coming into fruition now, in reality, in real life. You know, so... It isn't all fiction, it does become fact. And so for me, working in this kind of environment is cool. It's really, really, it's cool, but for me personally, in a funny, not cheesy, but just in a nice way. I'm in a spaceship. You know, I'm flying from A to B, and there's all sorts of crazy things going on. And this is good fun, but you know, it could happen in the end. In fact, it will happen in the end. It's going to be reality. We might not be around to see it, but it'll be reality, so it's good. Favourite science fiction movie? Damn, you've got so many. I wouldn't know where to start. You know, I do like the War of the Worlds series. Obviously, I like the Star Treks are great. What else would be good?
Well, we have Stephen Manley from Star Trek 3 that's going to be here on Wednesday. You should come back.
Oh, really?
He's playing Ralston.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, you see now, you know, science fiction, I mean, I watch the Sci-Fi Channel all the time. Mm-hmm. You know, it's just, I think it takes you away from reality, doesn't it? It takes you somewhere where you can use your imagination and play around. Yeah, it's being a kid.
Yeah.
It is just being a kid, not growing up.
That's why I asked you that question, because you really seem to enjoy it, and I enjoy it like that too. You know,
Of course. I mean, I know what this is in front of me. I don't know if the camera can see this.
You can pick it up.
But this is called a Dalek. And it was a British television show called Doctor Who.
And we still watch it.
Yeah, you got the new, I think a newer version. And I remember when I was a kid, which I never told you guys this, that I'm going to tell you now. And if this ever gets aired, and there's some people who know this from when I was a kid who were obviously looking after me then, I was bought a Dalek, but it wasn't like this. It was a full-size Dalek that you step into. It's plastic, and you step into it. But I cried. I was too scared. I will destroy you. That's how they talk.
Now we know your fear.
Now you know Daleks.
Now they'll never be bigger than you now.
Now you know, if you ever want to scare me, bring a Dalek.
Bigger than you.
No, yeah, science fiction, mate, it's great, you know, it's just fun, isn't it? It just takes away from all the sad things that are going on around the world. Yeah. Just for a short time, anyway.
Yeah. Well, all movies do, but I think science fiction in particular, because we're so tapped into the make-believe aspect.
Yeah, I enjoy it, I enjoy my work, you know, I enjoy the journey. I've had a great time since I started acting, since that day as an extra. You know, it's up and down. You know, it's not all roses. People need to understand, you know, there's, for me, 99% rejection, but, you know, booking that one job for me was like winning a lottery every time I book a job.
Right.
I'm a humble person. I appreciate every moment an opportunity I get. And, you know, some people become prima donnas and can't go down if the job was a big job, and I think that's silly. But, you know, you've got to enjoy your journey. Just enjoy the journey, because you may never get where you want to be. So just enjoy it. And that's what I do.
Right, you do. So you just sum up this whole shoot on Robot Armageddon with one adjective, what would it be? Tick, tick, tick.
If I could sum this whole project up for Robot Armageddon.
Your experience on it.
My experience would be, my one word would be enlightening. Yeah,
Right.
enlightening.
Well, it's such a pleasure having you. So much fun.
Pleasure being here.
Yeah, you were awesome. So thank you so much.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
I mean, I've always done acting. I think my first gig was You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown, and I was Charlie Brown, and yeah, I pursued it. I guess I was more interested in. I was more interested in humanities growing up, and kind of looking at like the great people that have walked on our earth, and what they did and what they found that connected them with their purpose. And I think that acting has always been a way for me to do that with the roles of the characters, and to kind of express that with the community. So starting with doing theater when I was younger, and now doing film, that's what I found really interesting about it, is seeing, the characters that I'm fortunate enough to portray, what it is that they do that's really great, and what connects them with their humanity. So it's probably been a lifelong thing, but it is slightly different than just like, I want to grow up and be an actor. There's different motivations there. I mean, I like all the jobs I've done. I really liked doing Shakespeare on stage. That's certainly a highlight. Obviously, this film is a highlight. Working with you, highlight. So yeah, I guess every job I do is really exciting. So, and you kind of learn and grow from each one of them. So I don't know if I have a favorite. I would say that's a false question then. Neil is great to work with. He knows exactly what he wants, which is always refreshing. He also works on the fly really well, which sometimes those two don't go together. Once he sees it, he workshops it kind of very quickly, and he's always even keeled yet upbeat. So I think that I really like that. Working with the director, you're not ever on edge around him. So yeah, he's not a bad director. He's a great director. I think Elon Musk talked about that recently, right? So I think that it's becoming more prevalent, but I mean, I'm certainly not knowledgeable enough to really speculate on what's going on currently. But I also, looking over the arc of history, I think humans have always kind of found a way. That's kind of their thing, as far as we know. So I think whatever and whenever the degrees of artificial intelligence comes out, I think that hopefully we can find a way to coexist. I assume that's saying if AI came out and tried to defeat the humans. So I'm going to stick with the earlier answer and say I hope that whatever it is, it can be a mutually beneficial relationship rather than battling over the planet. It would seem to me that it would make more sense to try and figure out additional planets we can hang out on together rather than fighting over just one. Well, it's not that obvious when it was 100-degree heat in the desert, but we actually did. I think everybody had a great time on the shoot. Salton Sea is like nothing I've ever seen. It's I mean, it really is post-apocalyptic. Is when you're walking around there, like my experience with the world has been seeing like humanity expand, and so like there's always a new development here and here and here. This is the one place where I've ever been where humanity's actually retracting. So you look and there's bones of animals and fish all over the place, and there's empty homes everywhere and just destroyed. I mean, it's really what is represented as far as what a post-apocalyptic United States would look like. So that was really strange and fascinating to be around, and kind of got in everybody's bones, and the smell got on our clothes because it's a smelly place. But yeah, I mean, it's been a very fun shoot. Sci-fi is such a fun and interesting world to inhabit, because each world's slightly different per director, and all of them different than the one we're on. So I think it's really cool. It's surprisingly close to Coachella. It would seem like, as toxic as the place is, because it's so close to Coachella and Indio and all these places, they should maybe fix it so that the fish can live in it and the birds can not die after they drink the water, I would hope. Some politician could get elected on Save the Salton Sea platform. I mean, real estate's dirt cheap. There's like a German immigrant who was debating on buying lake property for $2,000, but one of the articles I read said the sea will be dried up by 2020 and it'll be toxic dust blowing around California from it. So I don't know if it's a good investment or not. I mean, certainly the craft and working the craft and knowing the craft is really important. I think, personally, it's been a journey of, you go from this very structured, primary school, all of that, straight through university, undergraduate, and then, so I think part of being an actor, I think a lot of people that come to LA and the experience and I went to USC, so even the writing, directing side of it, a lot of that seems to be people engaging with their own lives, and from there they express it through their art. So whether it be writing, directing, acting, producing, painting, whatever it is. So I think that it's an ongoing process as you interact with the world. Hopefully you then create art that is reflective of what you've experienced and what you have experienced and what you're trying to experience.
I think kids are always imaginative and playful, but I think that, when I was a little kid, I always wanted to do theater. I always was singing along with musicals and just always wanted to be an actress, but I just really couldn't at the time. And then I think when I got older, it just became very clear to me that that's what I wanted to do. So, yeah. For me, I feel like everything is kind of a highlight because I feel like I learn so much every time I'm on set. So whether I like some better or others less, it really just, for me, it's all a learning experience and everything just kind of helps me grow. But recently, I've worked on some great films and just been learning a lot. So I actually think he's wonderful. I've had a great time on the shoot so far, and I just feel like he's really helped me to, with every scene, just to help me realize exactly how I should be, seeing it and portraying this character. So he's been great. Based on what I've seen and heard, I feel like there's definitely a possibility, if we don't control, if we don't control it. So, yeah, I think there's always a possibility, of AI becoming quite a big deal in the future, and we have to find a way to control it. So, I think that it'd be pretty difficult to fight AI because they would be so superior in so many ways, and it's us, we created them. So, I don't know. I really couldn't give you an exact answer. It's salty. Just kidding, I didn't try it or anything. It's a very interesting place. I wasn't exactly sure what to expect, but it was really cool. It was very post-apocalyptic. It was, the sunsets were beautiful, I have to say that. And it was just such a cool place. I actually found it kind of to be just a really interesting, freeing place to go, just out in the middle of nowhere. It's really cool.
So with every film I've done, I've always been very specific about the composers I work with. And often it's not a choice of, this person or that person. It comes down to a choice of mood and feeling. And I would often find a composer who understood my brain or understood the soul of the film. And someone who can encapsulate that. So with Rogue Warrior... and by the way, I have worked with some amazing composers. I mean, truly legendary, and they're all different, so everyone's got their own thing. But with Rogue Warrior, I was a little unsure in the beginning of what I wanted from the music. And in fact, what I really wanted, previous films, we'd have some big bombast orchestral stuff. But with this movie, I wanted, I guess, more emotional stuff. Now, for those of you who don't know me, I've worked with a lot of famous musicians as a director. I do music videos and stuff. And one band I've worked with a lot was Rhapsody of Fire, this Italian heavy metal, super group, I guess you could say. And I've had a friendship with Alex Staropoli, the composer of Rhapsody, for many years. And he was always saying to me, I want to do music for the movies and stuff. And I was like, he's always too busy. And I was always a little careful about that request because, you don't want to destroy a friendship by working together in such a way because, it can be a very tenuous thing. But he was in between, he just finished a big album. And the album had so much emotion in it for Rhapsody of Fire. And I thought, well, this is kind of the feeling I wanted anyway. So we finally, after knowing each other for 14 years, sat down and worked together in this way. And I guess with the process of doing this, Alex is truly an incredible composer. If you listen to the Rhapsody of Fire stuff, it's so complex and so big and bombastic. But then you hear the ballads, and they're very emotional. And I wanted that emotion in this movie. And I wanted something separate from Rhapsody of Fire as well that wasn't the standard sort of, stuff that they do, because this film is a character journey. And the interesting point on this movie is once he sent me the music, it was perfect. It was just like, he said, are there any changes? I said, no, this is just what I wanted. He understood me. So to get to that point, we'd spent weeks and months discussing the character and discussing the emotion and discussing the mood of the music, rather than me just say, okay, I want this and this type of thing, and there should be drums here and there should be this and that. We went into the soul of the music and said, okay, we need I wanted to tell him what the undercurrent of the character was. Now, here's an interesting point. When you work with actors, there's always one emotion that's up front and on screen, like they're upset, they're angry, whatever it is. But there's always an undercurrent. And with good actors, you've got to have to understand what the undercurrent of the emotion is. And, what's really going on inside a person. Yeah, they might be angry, but why are they angry? So I had that same discussion with Alex, okay, obviously this is a battle sequence, but what's really going on in this movie? What's really going on in that person's soul? And so he was writing the music as to the emotion of the character, the undercurrent of the character's emotion, the emotion that's not up the front. So, if she's crying, it's saying, we don't just put sad music on there. You say, why is she crying? What's the reason? What's going on inside that person? There's very, very specific hidden emotions, and the music is written around the hidden emotions of the film. The other interesting thing you'll notice is we have themes repeating all the way through the film, and those themes relate to what the character is going through, or their understanding of who they are. So you'll notice some of the themes at the beginning repeated at the end, and there's a big symmetry in this movie. Things will seem very familiar by the time you get to the end of the film, because it's like they're echoes of what you saw at the start of the movie. We had to do this with the music as well to keep that structure. So I'm all about structuring the movie in such a way that it's a real journey, but the music also had to take you on that journey. And Alex Staropoli was just, he understood this. because the Rhapsody music is all about, you know, epic tales of glory and adventure and you know, dragons and swords and battles and stuff, you know, there was always a strong emotional undercurrent in their music. And this, obviously being Italian, you know, they're very emotional people, which is good. But he understood that immediately and was able to bring that in and do a style that was maybe a little different from, you know, the Rhapsody of Fire stuff, but it just showed the world, or showed me at least, how much he could understand the feelings of the characters and bring out the emotional journey. And so we had the screening recently, the premiere, and everybody said the music was incredible. It had such a nice tonal note throughout the whole movie. And I think it's just because, nothing to do with me, it's just that, you know, Alex Staropoli is he gets the feeling, the emotion. He's a bit like Morricone, you know, who Morricone just finds the soul of the person, of the soul of the picture. And even people like Cliff Martinez as well, you know, that they're always understanding, you know, what's going on inside a person's, you know, heart and soul. And, you know, Alex Staropoli is one of those people. He's just got it. And it's about, you know, his personality, his life, the way he lives. You know, this is why a composer is very specific for a movie. And this is a true collaborator. And it's like choosing an actor. You have to choose the right composer. And my God, I was just blown away when I hear the music every time in the movie. It moves you to a strange emotional place. And that's a very rare thing. The film has a really great visual style, and a lot of this is attributed to Kyle Wright, the cinematographer in this movie. You know, who I guess he understands my brain, at least, with the, you know, how I see the world, and, you know, lenses and stuff, because I'm a lens freak. And you know, the movie has an incredible vibe. It has that sort of 70s, you know, lens flare look, which I loved. But also with, you know, great visuals, you need great sound. And we had Vic Casper, who was a friend of mine for many, many, many years, back when I was living in Australia. And Vic was one of these people I was in awe of, because he did all the big movies, like the really big films, you know, mixing... he did Kung Fu Hustle, for example, House of Flying Daggers. Now, if you ever listen to House of Flying Daggers and listen to the sound, you know, all these amazing little bits of sound around everywhere, that's him. And I mean, obviously he's got golden reels and, you know, nominations for everything coming out of his ass. I was always a little scared to even, you know, ask him to do stuff, because I mean, he works on these massive budget movies. But with this film, you know, we got such a great performance out of all the actors and such great visuals from Kyle Wright that I really wanted, you know, some good sound. And I guess I just got down on my hands and knees and begged this guy to you know, help me. I mean, you know, he wasn't obviously cheap, but, you know, what I got for the money was transcending, was truly incredible. So I was honored, if that's the word. I felt like it was Christmas to have this guy working on my movie. And, you know, he put in an amazing sound mix. And, you know, we had the screening the other night, and most of the comments, you know, aside from the amazing actress Tracy Birdsall and the amazing cinematography of Kyle Wright and you know, Alex Staropoli's incredible music, you know, and all the other actors, you know, everyone said, oh, it's your best movie, but then everyone said the sound was incredible. And, you know, I have to say it was all Vic Casper's work. So I guess with this movie, it was a matter of, you know, everything aligned beautifully for me. You know, I got to work with the visuals I wanted and the actors I wanted, and the you know, the sound mixer that I wanted, the re-recording mixer, and you know, I'm just going to be blown away every time I listen to this movie, and just hope to high heaven that Vic Casper will, you know, have this spare time to work with me again, because, you know, it's like you look up to the sky and you see the gods, and you say, you know, if only one of those gods would help me just once. And on this movie, you know, I think the gods looked down upon me and smiled, because you know, we were able to work with the the top people in the fields, acting, cinematography, music, and sound. So when you hear the sound and you hear those nice big heavy guns and all the explosions, and you listen to it in 5/1, no, there is a reason why it sounds so interesting, and that's obviously we had a good sound recorders with Jim Zickery as well, who captured the sound live, but then to make those sounds come alive in the film, that's the glory of Vic Casper, an amazing guy. Go check his IMDb, incredible person.
None of you here probably know anything about me, so I will give this introduction again later on, but I'm a director of 26 years, full-time. I've done nothing else but direct films, and I've also done music videos and television shows and everything else. And often what I try to do with these seminars is just give people handy hints of things I know. So I'd rather give out the information of the stuff I know, and also talk about the latest movie, because it's it's good to give out information. And the reason I like to give out information about what I do is when I was a young person in Australia and I was learning about film and trying to get jobs and learn from people, there was this very big DP who I would have washed his car for free. I would have done anything, and he'd done some big movies. And I said, I love cameras, but I didn't know how to shoot, and I didn't know how to point a camera properly or focus. I needed to know these things. And
this is going to be a hell of a seminar. You got music and everything.
Exactly. This is the moment where it gets really sad. But he wouldn't teach me anything because he said, if I teach you anything, you'll become my competition. And I thought that was a really sad attitude. Yes, the guy is still working in the industry. However, I moved up in the world, and I could have hired him at some point, quite a few times, but I chose to leave Australia and come to the US because it's where I belong, obviously. So, that's why I like to give out information about what I do. Obviously, some things I can't talk about. It's my budgets, because I'm under extreme duress from my sales agent and distributors and everything else. And it's the budgets can be inflated. I could lie to you about the budgets, and that's okay. But I know what things cost. I know what movies cost. My favorite thing is, anyone seen a movie called Bowfinger? Yeah, I consider it one of the most honest movies ever made about movie making. And though those sort of films generally don't do so well, I liked it when Steve Martin came out and said, every movie costs the same, $2,154. And I thought that was a very interesting statement that he made. And so for me, after I did my first film, I went out and made a movie for that exact budget in the year 2000. And that was the film To Become One. And I sold it. The first sale, we made a massive profit. So it was, I think, for me at least, none of you have probably seen my film, so it's going to be a little difficult trying to explain, who I am and what I do. But generally, this stuff looks pretty big and looks pretty epic. It doesn't look small, and it comes down to hard work, and that's the secret. If you don't have a lot of money, it's hard work, and that's really my little secret. So while we're just waiting for more people to come in, do you have any early questions, or anyone wants to know something? Because I'll tell everything, especially before there's a lot of people in the room. Anybody? You can fire me with a crazy question if you want, because you get a crazy answer.
What type of films do you do?
Okay. What type of films do I do? Well, I'll give you a quick overview on that. My first two films were... Well, the first one was science fiction horror. It was the late 90s. And I wanted to do that type of movie, but it was always character-driven. Second film was very character-driven as well. It was more of a horror thriller film. Tiny bit of science fiction elements. Third film was straight science fiction. Didn't have a lot of character stuff in it. Then I started moving ahead a little bit in my life, and I think I did a film called Humanity's End, which is science fiction, straight science fiction. And we're talking spaceships and explosions and things like that. And when you do science fiction, you're in a very tight box, and you get judged much more harshly than anything else. Look at the you know, the latest Star Wars movie, you know, that came out. It's probably one of the biggest movies ever made as far as budget and money, or Avatar, or anything else that makes money. Look at the reviews now. You know, the movie will come out, people say it's amazing, and then all of a sudden it'll just be like, oh, this is the biggest piece of crap ever made, blah, 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 blah. It's not. It can't be the biggest piece of crap ever made because millions of people went to see it. Billions of people went to see the movie. You're going to get so badly abused in the press and the media and the reviews. My movies, I always said, the worst movie ever. It's not true. And I know it's not true because I've seen some of the competition. And I'm definitely on the pile of the heap. I know this. But if I dared to do a drama film, or if I dared to do anything else, an action film, I would probably get better reviews. I'm certain of this. I would probably get better accolades. I would probably get Best Director at a film festival if I did a drama film. And that's a nice thing to get. I would love to get Best Director, but because we do science fiction, you're put in this box and people say, oh, okay, you can get Best Science Fiction, but certainly not, you know. And in the real world, Star Wars, look at the impact of Star Wars, okay? It got Oscar nominations. Did it win Best Picture? No, it did not. What won Best Picture that year, 1977? Can anyone remember? Annie Hall, which is an okay movie, but is it Best Picture? Look at the impact of what Star Wars has had on the film industry and the writing industry and everything else. Okay. It did change things. Okay, great. So, you know, it's, I guess, the regular world will not give recognition to science fiction, but the one thing you will gain is loyalty from fans. So I'll give you an example of what happened. We had a screening the other night, and I think 50% of the audience were press. And I heard sobs during the film because of the performance, because it was very emotional. The press, some of the members of the press actually cried, and that's almost unheard of. And that's because I chose somebody who could act. So, you know, that was a lucky thing. I feel very blessed to have that, but you're rolling your dice with every time you hire an actor, and I think you know how it is. Making science fiction films, or I mean, how many have actually made a film in this room? It's everybody. Fair enough. So I guess you've all at least made a movie and tried to get it released or not released, and probably had nice, good things happening, and probably a lot of bad stuff happening. And probably had run-ins with actors, and had run-ins with press or something, one of the above.
Or the crew.
And the crew. Oh yeah, the crew. Oh, goodness me. And producers. I have had all of those things, and I sometimes have massive crews of people, sometimes have small crews of people. I like working with smaller crews sometimes because, you know, what happens on a big set, you get all these people go talk, and they all gang up against you. And especially with me, I was a director at the age of 21. Problem was, I'd turn up on a shoot for a television commercial, which I was directing. And the lighting guy, for example, I never forget this guy, he gave me an attitude because he thought I was some kid, and basically sat there and said, well, you don't know what you're doing, and these people try and sabotage you, and you'll get saboteurs along the way. So I do everything I can to try to protect myself from the world, because it's how it is. Once people get familiar with you, once they're older than you, or they think they know more than you, they will try to sabotage you in any step they can, any way they can. That's the real world, basically. And the trick is to try to keep those douchebags out of your life. One trick I do, okay, now I'm going to tell a little story here. So we had an actor turn up on set, okay? This is Starship Rising, and he was one of the leads in the film. And, seemed like a nice guy, a team player. I was actually good friends with his agent. So he turned up on our set and had a bit of attitude going, in a weird way. I'll give you an idea of what I call attitude. He brought his own chair, his own little chair. I didn't have a chair. He had brought his own chair with his name on it, which I thought, great. What a little bit of an ego problem, but it's okay. He brought his girlfriend on set. That's okay. He might need the support. Fair enough. He brought his dog on set, and the dog had diarrhea problems. As an old dog. I mean, your dog's not healthy, obviously. He pooped everywhere and made a mess. You know, this is kind of, in a small way. Oh, thank you very much.
Luke's ready if you want.
Okay. So we had dog poop everywhere, and then he had this attitude, like he was doing a romance. He had to do a kissing scene and stuff with one of the other actresses, and he was being all weird about it. And then he claimed he was trained in this and that, and he had to do a slapping scene, and he caught the actress on the nose, which mistakes happen, but he was being a bit of a dick about it. Then he announced to us that, I've got a Geico commercial to do. And I can't make it on Monday. We had a crew of about 50 people in this movie. I can't make it, I was like, well, you've contracted to do it. You had the warning 2 months ago. And, I didn't tell my commercial agent. So I fired him politely. This is what he did. He turned around, pinched his nose, and then turned back to me and started crying. I thought, oh, jeez. And I'm not crying for myself. I'm crying for you, who's been let down by the system and everything else. Dude, don't do this. Don't do this. These are the douchebags I have to deal with on the planet. And guess what? I saw the guy at the film premiere a few days ago, and he was trying to get my attention. He regretted his decision, I'm sure. He's posting on Facebook, I let Neil Johnson down, I did a Geico commercial, and the world was laughing at him and everything else, So I deal with douchebags day in and day out of my life. The one thing you do as quickly as you can is get rid of them, fire their ass. Yeah, maybe it's going to delay your movie by a week and a half, for sure. But it's better than having to spend a month with these people and then have to deal with them for the rest of your lives. That's the biggest rule I have, is fire people. Fire them as quick as you can, get rid of them, because you want to be clear-headed as much as you can to make the movie artistically. Because if you're a director and you're being artistic, you don't want some douchebag, up your ass annoying you. Cameras and stuff. So just to give you some technical information, I did the world's first digital film, I believe, I'm not confirmed, in 1997. Now, at the time I was told I was a bit of a douchebag for doing this, because I should have shot 35mm. I couldn't afford 35mm, so I wanted to shoot digital, proper digital, widescreen, everything else, etc. Projected onto 35mm at the end. It was even cut digital. Of course, now everyone's doing it that way, but that was how it was back then. Since then, I've tried to get my way back to film as much as I can. I try to make the digital stuff look like film, and I was very, very successful in doing this way back. People thought I shot 35mm. I had a few tricks up my sleeve back in the early 2000s. That being said, now every film I shoot, we shoot in 4K resolution. No, actually we shoot 5K resolution, and we finish the film in 4K resolution. For those of you who don't know what that means, you've got high definition. You got the old standard definition DVD size. You got high definition, which is like Blu-ray. Then you got 4K, which is even bigger. Now, if you're going to finish on 4K, you've got a massively dramatic post-production pipeline problem. And, all I can say is it's getting better and better every single day. But it's not there yet. And I have massive computer systems where I have to, process the footage and everything else. And, you've just got to work out a logical path of doing that. Oh, okay. Good question. The question was, a friend of his is doing a horror film. Should he do another horror or change to doing superhero movies? Right now, he should do a superhero movie. It's a great time to do superhero films because people want that content. Because right now, Marvel is king. So you want to do that type of thing. And look at a breakout film like Chronicle, which is a superhero film, sort of lower budget type thing. Josh Trank, he went on to then do, I think it was Fantastic Four, which unfortunately, there's a lot of hoopla around that film, but it did push his, it did something for his career, so it is a valid thing to be doing. And we've hit that same thing right now. We have a film called Rogue Warrior, and Rogue One is going to hit at the same time. That is a happy coincidence, and that's a good thing, Alien Armageddon was originally called Battle Los Angeles, and the Battle for Los Angeles. Two movies came out with almost the exact same name around the same time, and I felt, okay, I get it. One big movie's coming out, but there was another small movie with the same title, and I just changed. I don't want to be confused with everybody, so I call it Alien. We renamed it Alien Armageddon. It was Battleground Los Angeles, or BGLA is what we called it, And my first two films were pretty much given away for free, and they're all over the world. And a version of my movie turns up in Germany or from this country or that country all the time. And I I got nothing. I got nothing out of those first 2 film releases. The third film, yes. Here's a quick thing to close this up by. My third film, Battlespace, came out and did good business worldwide. We had a guy from Germany said he was going to sell it. This Polish guy living in Germany said he was going to sell the movie and, you know, put it out there. He took the screener, you know, and re-letterboxed it, converted it from NTSC to PAL. It looked terrible, and pressed his own DVDs and put it out there. And thousands of copies all across Germany. Didn't pay us a cent. It basically took the actual screener, pretended he was doing the deal, got all the materials, and then didn't do the deal. So I spoke to Universal Pictures in Germany about this because I have friends there, and they said, yeah, this guy does it all the time. So he'll take the movie like The Mummy or Frankenstein, and he'll release it under his own name, and we sue him, and he stops doing it, but he's already made enough money to counteract that lawsuit. So what he does is run the numbers. He will basically take your movie, steal a movie wherever he can, put it out. 50% of the people will sue him, but he's made a profit on those films. So I went after him. I went after this guy legally. And the trick was in Germany. It cost me, he made probably 10,000 euros on my film. To sue him, it cost me 2,500 euros to sue him. Just under 3,000 euros to sue him. He had to pay back the legal costs to me. But okay, so it cost him 3,000 euros, but he made 10,000 euros, so he's still 7,000 euros up on profit. I made that guy write me a handwritten letter, as ordered by the court, apologizing for what he did. And he was arguing that point more than anything else. He did it. He was forced by the court to do it. And, you know, I was very, very, very tempted to send mafia people around him and break his legs. Because, I mean, you know, this is theft. Somebody walks in your house and steals your TV, you know, you try and stop him. I was very, very careful. He will never mess with me again, though, because it was a really bitter thing for him to do, you know, to have to write that letter.
Why couldn't you get back the profits, sue him for everything he made?
That's the rules in Germany, the copyright law, and I had a very good copyright lawyer on the matter. It would cost me an extra 10,000 euros to go after him, and it just would have been too much money. You know, it's numbers. It's just profit and loss.
And how do you find out exactly how much they made? Because it's usually 2 or 3 books.
Because you know how many copies he's pressed from the manufacturing place, and we knew how many copies he had left in his warehouse. So, you know, we went in and seized the rest of them as 1,000 DVDs, and I think he pressed 5,000. So, you know, you could do the numbers on that. But you know, that's just the game. You know, that's just the game of having people play it. You know, and that's what you're dealing with out there, and you've got to be smart enough to stand up for yourself and, you know, get in their faces. And, you know, that guy will never mess with me again. And a lot of people now in Germany will not try to rip me off because we made a big deal about it in the media. And I shamed this guy in the media as much as I could. In the end of the day, it actually cost me, and I did the numbers, cost me 350 euros to go through the process. I lost money on the deal, you know, all up. But it was worthwhile because, you know, long term, you're not going to get screwed. So, any last questions? I've got 2 minutes left.
What equipment do you use besides the drone?
Oh, okay. Okay, I shoot everything on a Red Epic camera. I've tried every camera. I'm a camera freak. I'm a lens freak. I like every type of camera there is out there, but I use the Red Epic because it's highest quality for what I do. You know, I would also recommend an Alexa. I'd recommend any camera that makes the skin look good. And they're changing every week. You know, there's a Canon 5D Mark IV coming out. I may not recommend that camera because there's a better Canon camera out there already in the marketplace. It'll be better for people. But yeah, exactly. But I'm that guy who has to buy his cameras. You know. Yeah, the Alexas are beautiful. And there's our goodbye. So thank you, everybody.
This is Drama Screen with the beautiful Tracy Birdsall. I interviewed you last year for Who's Jenna. Do you remember that?
Yes, I do. Absolutely. That's when I heard your name. I'm like, oh, yay.
It was over the phone, so to finally meet you in person. You're more beautiful than you are in pictures.
Thank you.
So, Rogue Warrior, congratulations on that. How does it feel now?
Thank you. Amazing. Amazing. I mean, this was a huge film. It's so much work and so much physicality and so much emotional work. And I mean, literally a year in production, like 2 months in solid production. But then it was always like Neil Johnson was always going all Peter Jackson on me. It was like, we need another shot. We need another this. We need another action scene. I mean, literally 3 weeks ago was the last shot we did. Yeah.
Literally?
We had the
Wow.
score done, we had the music done, we had everything done, and all of a sudden he's like, I need one more spot. And I'm like, okay, you know. So to have it actually come out, I mean, it's just amazing.
Now, a lot of heroines, I guess, in the sci-fi world over the years, you know, Ripley and all those girls, and Alice. So now how does it feel to be on that same rank? With all those
Amazing.
badass females in science fiction?
Amazing, yeah. Well, especially because I'm a fitness buff and I'm really
Yes.
into, you know, I have really great endurance. I'm a fighter and all those things. So I always knew it's like I could do such a good job at one of those roles. But what's cool is that this one is so different than any of the ones that we've seen. So if you're staying to watch it, it's a character-driven journey. And I'm telling you, this character gave me PTSD. I mean, it was just really intense. And so I think it sets a whole new standard as far as, you know, female action heroines. So I'm really excited about that.
And lots of visual effects, right?
There's a lot of
guessing,
visual
yeah.
effects, but as much as possible is real. Very little green screen.
Wow.
Because his last 2 movies, he did a lot of green screen. And he's like, I'm over this. I want the real dirt, the real grit, the real, you know. And so, you know, when she's limping or she's really hurt, you know, and when she's doing things, it's not being overlaid on something. It's real.
Okay.
And so, of course, some of the robots are green screen and stuff, but a lot of that isn't even so. A lot of that is real.
All right.
So it's very exciting.
Are you gonna stick around in the world of action and sci-fi, or are you gonna come back to comedy like Who's Jenna once in a while? How do you mix your gigs?
I like to stay cross-genre because I don't want to get pigeonholed.
Of course.
And I've been an actress for a long time. So actually this year I have 2 science fictions coming out and I have 2 comedies coming out. I have Diary of a Fat Man, which actually screens on Sunday. So I like to go back and forth and keep all those muscles active so that when somebody says, can you do this? I'm like, absolutely.
All right.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Congratulations. This is Rama Screen with Mr. William Kitchen. How are you doing?
How are you, Roman? Good to see you again,
Good,
man.
yes.
We met in Vegas.
Yes.
You know
yes, I
how
will.
it is. What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas.
Yes, sir.
Okay, good to see you.
Good to see you. So, man, this is such an exciting experience, right?
Oh, look at this. Look at it. And the beautiful and talented Tracy Birdsall. It's got a great cast, and I haven't seen it yet, so I'm thoroughly looking forward to seeing it tonight.
All right. So, for my viewers at home who haven't seen it, what's your role? What's your character here?
I play 2 roles. I play Dr. Johnson, who's a robot-hating doctor, and I play the lead villain, which is Scourge, the lead villain. So I take 2 parts.
Wow, was that challenging for you?
Okay, guy, and well, the Scourge is a voice role.
Ah, okay.
You still got to act it though.
Yeah.
You got to get in the zone.
So
there you go.
what's the difference between being in Hobbit movies and something sci-fi like this? You know, because it's a different transition, of course, right?
It's different, but it's always the same. It comes down to creativity and people with talent and vision, like Neil Johnson, our director. So whether you're working for Peter Jackson on a movies that were about $750 million, or this little film,
Yes.
which was about $3.8 million, it doesn't matter because it's still got the same love, it's still got the same heart and soul and passion inside it.
Yes, I'm looking forward to seeing it too. So the action sequences, you get to shoot some big guns, whatever.
Yeah, got to shoot big guns. Yeah, shoot big guns.
Did you get injured?
Got to shoot robots. No, got very tired. It's tough work. Shooting robots, you know, and using your imagination is hard work.
I read that it's been described as Mad Max versus Mad Max meets Star Wars.
Yeah,
How
it
epic is that?
It is.
That's
It is.
quite a
It is an
description.
epic film. Well, you know, let's wait and see. I'm so excited.
All right, congratulations.
Goodbye to your viewers.
This is Rama Screen with Mr. Daz at the Rogue Warrior Robot Fighter premiere. How does it feel, Daz?
I'm excited, you know. It's I do a lot of projects, and I'm looking for. It's been a year now, over a year since we filmed it, and you know, I've seen a lot of promotion on the movie, so I'm looking forward to seeing it.
So, what is your character in this film for my viewers at home?
Okay, my character is a guy who has been sent to a jail on a planet. In fact, the whole planet is the jail, and the leading lady, we're a couple, and she's come to save me.
All right.
And I'm not going to go any further than that. I don't want to give anything more away. There's a really interesting twist to it all.
How challenging are the action sequences for you?
Well, I've done a lot of action movies. You know, I was in Blade 2 and I did my own stunts in that, and James Bond with Pierce Brosnan, and I did all my own stunts in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I was a gladiator, so it is what I like to do. You know, it's just part. For me, it's just a part of the job. I love my acting, I love that, but I also like doing my own stunts as well. So doing this was just as much fun.
Oh, so I'm a big fan of Shield. Yeah, so real quick, so what are the similarities and differences between that science fiction and this science fiction?
Okay, so working with Marvel, obviously lots of money.
Of course.
On a television show, it's a lot different than a movie. You know, you're away for a few weeks on a movie with a TV. You go home at night, and you're back at work the next day. You're in the next scene. We have table reads every week on Shield, and so we know what we're doing the preceding week. It's very different. You know, with a movie, you get your script at the beginning. You know what you're doing all the way through. With TV, you don't know. Every week, you don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah. You coming back on that show?
Can't say, I'm not allowed. I'm not allowed to talk about things like that.
I won't get you in trouble, my friend.
No,
okay. Congratulations again on Rogue Warrior, okay?
Thank you very much.
Star Trek 3.
Right,
Red,
Star
I
Trek
remember
3.
you.
Okay, all right, there we go. The Ponfar, everybody remembers that
Yes,
one.
I remember you played young Spock, is it?
Spock at 17.
I'm a fan.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Explain, what's your character in this film?
My character is Dr. Ralston, and I'm a scientist. I'll also say a little bit of a revolutionary, kind of a leader of a resistance movement, who along with Tracy Birdsall and Daz Crawford and William Kircher were in a revolution against artificial intelligence. And that's as far as I'll take it, because then you're going to see the movie tonight, and I don't want to spoil it for you.
Now, how worried are you? Is artificial intelligence going to be happening in any time soon in the near future and take over the world?
Well, let me tell you something. Just like the original rollerball back in 1974, when they said, oh, corporations won't take over the world. Well, look, corporations have taken over the world, and sports have taken a turn that way. So artificial intelligence is here to stay. I hope it doesn't go where the film takes it, but one never knows, okay? One never knows. I'm scared of my cell phone, all right? It's got artificial intelligence in it, so be wary, be cautious.
So, this is not your first round in the sci-fi world, obviously. So, over the years, over your career, now coming to Rogue Warrior, has it gotten easier, or does it present its own challenges in this movie?
Each film is unique, each character is unique, and Dr. Ralston is, I found, to be a very deep character. Neil Johnson and Tracy Birdsall wanted him to be very rounded, and so it was much more, it was unique in a different way than Star Trek was. Star Trek presented some really big challenges for it, in the way that Leonard Nimoy wanted me to play young Spock at 17, going through Ponfar with Robin Curtis. This is a completely different guy. So the answer to the question is, each part is unique, and you tackle each part with its own unique qualities to it.
Okay, I got two more questions here. What do you expect to see tonight? This is the premiere. You're going to have a lot of fun. I'm sure a lot of drinks, a lot of enjoying each other's company. How's that?
Well, if I have too many of the drinks, I won't be able to see anything. But I do know that the film is going to look spectacular. It's going to have a great look to it. I expect a lot of incredible special effects. Neil is one of the first, if not, I believe, the first digital filmmaker. And so I know the film is going to look terrific. I know Tracy does a wonderful job in the lead. And William, I had a ball working with him. Daz is a great actor. I think you're going to see a great film.
Last question. Last year we lost one of the greatest actors, Leonard Nimoy. You played young Spock. Can you talk about that experience looking back? How was it working with the man? Bestowed wisdom on you?
Oh, he bestowed a lot of wisdom on me. Of course, he had that wonderful speaking voice. He had a great presence. Everybody loved him on set. You know, he directed that film, and he helmed the movie beautifully, gave everybody a lot of attention, and really did spend a lot of time with me. And he implored upon me to take the responsibility of playing young Spock very, very seriously, because he said, it'll be with you for the rest of your life, Steve. He said, are you willing to accept that and be honorable about it? I said, absolutely, positively. And he had seen my previous work in a television show that I was in for David Jacobs, a good friend of mine, where I had a beautiful scene with Zora Lampert, and he wanted me to bring that to young Spock in those sequences. So I have fond memories of Leonard Nimoy. We'll miss him an awful lot, but he was really a nice man and was very kind to both me and Robin on that set.
Well, thank you so much and congratulations on Rogue Warrior.
Thank you very much.
All right, this is Rama Screen at the premiere of Rogue Warrior with Aaron. How you doing?
Doing good, man. How are you?
Good. Thank you. And my gosh, that's an awesome hair, man.
Dude, I appreciate it. I appreciate it a lot. You know, I can't go anywhere without people admiring my hair. You know. Yeah.
So, Rogue Warrior, congratulations. So what is your role? What is your character in this? You're on the poster.
Yeah, I'm on the poster. I play Tycho. You know, I don't really know how else to explain to him except for being a badass in the middle of the desert. You know, soldier, pretty much. Yeah. He has his dog, his companion. You know, he ends up getting killed off in the first couple scenes, but the dog lives on and continues to fight on. You know what I mean?
I like that. I don't like movies where dogs die, so.
No, yeah, of course not. Yeah, all the other characters take care of him, so you know, I'm happy about that. You know.
So, is this your first round in the world of science fiction? Or?
It is. I mean, I've done a few things here and there, but recently, I should say, this is the only thing I've done recently. Yeah.
Okay. How does that feel for you?
Feels great, man. You know, it's one of those things that, like, ever since I was a little kid, you know, it's like I love science fiction. So when Neil Johnson presented this role to me, I was like, I couldn't pass it up. You know what I mean?
So I spoke with Tracy, and she said there's a lot of injuries on the set.
There's a lot. Everyone has them. You know, even the dog. I had a few. You know, there's a couple weird things that happened on set. You know, like it was out in the desert, so some weird things happened. You know, it was like getting up to 110, 115 degrees, and we would eat a lot of fast food, a lot of random things, and I don't eat a lot of fast food. So one day I ate Jack in the Box. It's about 115 degrees, and let's just say my stomach was not having it. You know what I mean? Like,
so you did your own stunts?
Yes.
Oh,
yeah.
Cool. Man, that's gonna hurt.
You know, it's fun. Okay. You know what I mean?
For my viewers at home who haven't watched the movie, what would you say to them? Why do they need to check this out?
You guys need to check it out just because it's badass. Everyone in here is super cool, and you guys just need to watch it.
All right. Well, thank you so much and congratulations on Rogue Warrior. Thank you. This is Rama Screen with Miss Ashley Park. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. How does it feel? The premiere of Rogue Warrior, Robot Fighter.
Oh, I'm so excited. We've been waiting for this for a while. I've gotten to see a few little teaser trailers, but I haven't seen it yet, so I'm very excited.
For my viewers at home, what is your role or character in this film?
Rihanna. Okay. This is all about Sienna's journey, and it's kind of fun because my character just adds a little spice to the film.
You are Miss Asia USA, correct? How's the transition from doing that to acting now? How has that been for you?
It's great. Actually, I started acting before I even had the opportunity to be Miss Asia USA, so it's been really fun to get to do both.
All right, so you're juggling both worlds. That's awesome.
I am, absolutely. There's a lot going on. It's a very exciting time.
This is the world of science fiction. Are you yourself a fan of that genre?
I am, yes, definitely. Well, I think growing up I was probably a bigger fan of rom-coms. I'm just a girl. But, you know, I've seen all the Star Wars films, Star Trek, all of that, and I love it. So, definitely a fan.
Imagining the visual effects are there, things that are not actually there.
You know, I think that I love actually getting to do that kind of imagination work. It's really fun to just pretend, but it's going to be really fun to actually see how they put it together in the film. Other than that, I think the hardest part for me was probably just the boots. They were super heavy, and having to run really fast in those. It's a good thing I'm actually a runner, so it worked out.
Cool. Well, thank you so much and congratulations on Rogue Warrior.
Thank you so much.
All right, this is Rama Screen with director Neil Johnson at the premiere of Rogue Warrior Robot Fighter. Yeah, how does it feel finally, your labor of love coming to fruition?
It's been at least 2 years since I started this movie, and that's kind of scary, you know, because I was supposed to finish the movie in about 6 months. 2 years. Maybe not the smartest decision business-wise, but you know, I had to do it. That's I had no choice. You know, it's you get these ideas in your head, and you want to polish and make it better and better, and that's what I have to do. You know, it's the independent movie scene has changed so much. You know, people don't want to see low-budget schlocky crap anymore. They want to see something, you know, of a standard. Because, you know, you can turn on the television right now, you can see Game of Thrones, and it's a great film. So, it's a great series, but it's better than most movies.
Yes.
And the same with Walking Dead. It's better than most zombie films. So, you got to understand, people are getting really particular about how they waste their time watching a movie. So, I've just got to try to make the best film I can so that people don't feel like, oh, gee, I wasted 2 hours of my life watching this. Rogue Warrior doesn't. I hope will deliver in a way that no other movie I've done before has done. So everyone's saying who's seen the film, it's definitely the best film I've ever done. And I've made, I think, 14 films, but at least I'm improving with age. I'm like a good wine.
Now, was Tracy your first choice for the leading role?
Tracy was the only choice, and I wrote the script a while ago, but then I met Tracy and we worked together on another film, and I realized this is somebody I could really work with. Finally I met a good collaborator, and so the film got it evolved into something different, I guess you could say, and that's why I was so happy to have Tracy, because I knew she could do this, this, and this, and this, and then we were able to make it into something bigger and better, and we kept developing ideas. That's why it took 2 years.
That's fine.
Because we shot stuff, and then it's like, oh, I could do this, and I could do that, and then we met up with William Kircher from The Hobbit, and the TV show called The Castle of Adventure, which nobody knows about except me, but I was a fan of that. And we just realized, we can make something with the characters and make something exciting. So it's the film's, it's got a lot of action, but I mean, to me, it's a character story.
Now, I look at this though. There's a lot of special effects, visual effects coming into this, right? How challenging was that for you within the budget that you had to work with?
Oh, it's terribly challenging. Taking a leaf out of the, it's got to be practical these days. We try to make as much of the movie practical as possible, and we have real explosions. We have real sets and real locations. There's very, 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 very little green screen in this film, whereas my previous film was all green screen. So I've gone the complete opposite, and we're out in the desert blowing stuff up. And so this makes me happy. This is what I love the most is being on location, being in the environment, and being in the desert and smelling the air, and being hot, being cold, and being sunburned, and then being blown by wind and stuff. We crashed a helicopter in this movie. We crashed 5 drones in this film. You know what I mean? So destroyed a couple of vehicles.
Wow.
But it's an adventure. This is when you make a film. For me, it's now about having an adventure. It's not about you just stand in the studio and say your lines. It's just get out and do things and make life happen. So, and you see this in the film. You'll see there's Tracy gets scratched a couple of times or injured or whatever. They're real injuries. But we roll with it because it's good for the character. It's good for the film.
Yes, so last question for those aspiring independent filmmakers out there that want to make something as epic as Rogue Warriors like this, try to test the waters and how they're going to work it out within the budget that they're given. What is your advice to them?
Oh, see, this is the problem. People ask me to teach what I do to people. You can't teach what I do. I've been directing 27 years, full time. That's all I've done for 27 years. Thing is, there's a lot of knowledge in here, and you can't just say, this is what I do. You basically you learn by doing. Make a film, make it as good as you can, make another one, make another one, make another one, make another one, and eventually you'll get it right. And that's what I've learned with these sort of things is practice makes perfect. That's why with every film I do, it gets better and better.
Yeah.
Some filmmakers, they peak early. I'm one of these people in life as well. I just improve with age. Purely because I learn and grow and develop, and I try to stay fit and healthy. And this is one really important thing, is fitness. Now, it may be strange to say that, but it's about pacing yourself and keeping yourself physically fit so you can move fast and keep the energy going, because you're exhausted at end of shooting, so you want to make sure that you've got enough energy to turn up to set every day and be on your A game. Because if you set the bar high, everyone else follows.
So there's no better learning than learning by experience, correct?
Exactly.
Congratulations on Rogue Warrior.
Thank you, sir.
Yes.
This stuff came out of you that we went, whoa, this is huge, and of course, much more than we'd expect from a robot. So tell us, how much of Sienna overlaps Tracy, and what's your process to get into that role?
I don't feel like Sienna and Tracy have any overlap, really.
Okay.
Except for maybe a little bit in looks, But
My process is I spent months preparing for this, and since she has different realizations throughout the whole movie of who she is and what her relationships are, I had to actually color code the whole thing. Like, this is what I knew at the time, this is what I was feeling at the time, this is how it affected me, which in some ways put me in a little bit of a box, like in my scenes at the end opposite William. I really wanted to go at that with my acting chops, but you can't because of what I know and my realizations are and what my process and the system that I was at. So I kind of believe, I've studied a million methods over too many years, but so for me, I believe in taking all those methods, and I like to live that character. And so I just think through what that character's feeling, and I bring it to life. I just feel it. And so that's why sometimes Neil had to get me to hold back sometimes, because feeling those things, you really, you're hurting. And so, I was really hurting. It's like I kind of felt like I had PTSD at times after this, because I still carried that pain, because when you're an actor and you live that role, those are actually your memories. And so you have to cope and deal with it and get over it, even though you know somewhere down deep inside that it didn't really happen, So anyway, that's what's different, yeah.
So with the PTSD experience, is there like a decompression time after you finish with a project where you're like, I just need a break to not see anyone for
it's not always
a
just
few
the
days?
Yeah, it's not always just the project. It's like that one scene was an insert shot with Mark Haas. Where is he? Oh, you're down there. Hi. Because that one, I had to be in that state for a few days. And so it was like, once that was over, because I mean, staying in that place all day long with the cameras and stuff, and then we went back and did more actually after he was gone, but that really hurts. That really scars you. And what did it take me, 2 or 3 weeks?
Yeah, tell that.
So I'd be like, I can't talk about that. I'm like, I was so scarred, and then I think after a few weeks you kind of start to be okay. I'm going to be okay. It's like going through like a bad breakup or something, how it takes you a while, and then you put it away, and I had to like go through that and put it away.
Well, it came through beautifully on screen.
Thank you.
And Mark, what's it like to be shot not once but twice by the same girl?
Oh man. I mean, like it's a pleasure getting to work with Tracy and Neil, and that scene.
Right.
Oh my gosh!
I gave him a shot of whiskey afterwards. We
both like Neil was like, and cut, and then we just were like, okay guys, we just because Neil's like back to ones like, can we just have a second, please? We just oh my god, it was a blast. It was great to work with them, and but I'm saying like it was amazing. It was amazing, and it's amazing what you do up here. And it's just wonderful. Thank you very much, guys. Thank you very much for having me.
Nice. William, I want to talk to you for a bit. You have an amazing career. Your career spanned a huge amount of time and a amount of projects, and you really have an incredible pedigree. And what a beautiful color that you brought to the story today.
Oh, what a lovely thing to say! Oh, sweet! Keep going.
with having worked in huge movies and worked with the likes of Peter Jackson and those kind of budgets, and then getting to work with a project like this, was it the money that brought you to this project, or was it?
Yeah, it was the money.
I think I'm
sure it was the money.
Listen, it's funny you should say, and it's funny you should mention Peter Jackson, because you'll remember it, Neil. I did say, Neil Johnson, you remind me of Peter Jackson. Mm-hmm. Because Peter Jackson, when he started out making smaller films, he just had the passion and the creativity to just get out there and do it. And that's what I loved about doing this piece. I loved the fact that Neil and Tracy just went out there and made a film. And the same passion and love and creative integrity and talent for the budget that we had. It's the same creativity, talent, passion that we had for the Hobbit trilogy, and our budget was like $650 million. Wow. But at the end of the day, it comes down to filmmakers having the passion and the love to be able to create.
And what made you want to do it?
I wanted to work with you. Because she is fucking sexy. I don't know if you guys noticed. I can do it again later. We can fix it in post. Anyway, it just had a good heart, and it was just, fun. It's not the money. At the end of the day, it's not the money. It's the, it's the guy getting together and working with people, and meeting other actors and being involved in first time I've seen it. What an awesome film.
Absolutely.
So proud.
So what would you say is the big difference, or were there any differences at all, working with the Jackson and working with the Johnson?
What, apart from the budget? Peter's probably got a bit more money than any of us.
But the passion's still there.
The passion's there. That's
Absolutely.
right. That's what it
And
is.
Neil's brutal with the shooting and shooting and shooting.
And also Neil makes you work
something.
freaking hard, and that's
Yeah.
like Peter Jackson.
Yeah.
That's great.
We worked our butts off.
Directors don't care about it. They just get out there and do it. Stop complaining.
But what a treat to have a director that pushes you and gets more out of you than you thought you ever had in you. It's a real treat, I would think, to get to work with somebody like that.
It is.
With that kind of passion. Stephen, also a huge pedigree and also a big history in science fiction. So you've been doing science fiction for a while. I know that you were on Star Trek, right?
Mhm.
And in that time period between then and now, what's your experience in science fiction? How has science fiction changed in that time? Like, has life has moved on, and technology in the real world changes, what part of the fiction becomes fact, and then we have to change for modern movies?
Boy, what a deep question.
We've got all night.
I tell you, science fiction has evolved. Science fiction has changed as technology has caught up with science fiction.
Right.
I was asked a question earlier today by one of the other fellas, and I always bring up the original Rollerball with James Caan as one of my favorite films. And if you listen to the DVD commentary with Norman Jewison, which is one of the best commentaries I've ever heard, he said when they were shooting that film in '74, it wasn't really about the game. It was about corporations taking over and society changing. And in the mid-'70s, nobody believed that would happen. It's come to pass, and I tell you, I don't know where it's going to go. So a film like this is quite scary. And when Tracy and Neil came to me and they offered me the part of Ralston, since I'm a rebel at heart, it felt good to be a resistance movement leader. And that's the way we kind of talked about the character, right? And I tell you, Clockwork Orange has come to pass.
Yeah.
The only thing that hasn't come to pass yet is New York as a maximum security prison.
Upstate New York is
Upstate New York is getting close, right? But we've got the earthquakes in LA. It's always a challenge to a science fiction artist to keep ahead of the technology, which is rapidly closing in on everybody.
Thank you. Great answer. Jazz, I want to move on to you. Now, I don't have to ask you if you did it for the money, because they said you get to have a sex scene with Tracy. I'm in.
I don't need the money. I don't need the money, no.
That's right. That's one for free. No, in all seriousness, though, because we sitting back watching something like that go, wow, that's the luckiest guy in the world. How great he gets to do this. What's it really like? What's the logistics of shooting something like that?
Well, not what you think.
Okay.
Everybody says, you look at the end result and you see what looks like a great sex scene,
Right.
but, you forget that there's a sound guy 12 inches away from you. The director's like 4 feet away from you, and everybody's just staring at you, and then there's a guy yawning, and there's a guy, can we have a cup of tea now? So it's not what you think it is. That's the end result. But the end
And I
result
had
looks
stickers on.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. I've got a line.
Totally different.
I have to lay there and pretend I'm not interested, and so you just gotta just got to go with it, really, haven't you?
That's a good point, right? Because you had that thing in your brain that
That's
didn't allow you to get excited.
I'm not allowed to get.
An Oscar.
I can't get turned on, you know. I'm not allowed to get turned on. But it was good fun, you know. I had a great time. I mean, you know, that's the first time I saw it, and you know, I've done a lot of projects, big ones, and that is, I'm quite speechless right now. I'll ride back on my motorbike back to LA tonight, and I'll think about what I've just seen, because it's really, really good, and I think you guys should be really, really proud of what you've done there. You know, it's an amazing. To me, you know, that's the first time it's been shown. I want to see where that's going to go now. What we're going to say about it, because you know, it's definitely, I've done some big stuff, and that's really, really good.
I got to ask you, in the moments you must feel, you know the script when it's coming up, and you know you're about to get wasted in there, and I'm sure it's happened in other movies too. Do you ever like cringe?
Do you know what?
Oh God, here
Do you know what? I died in James Bond, I died in Blade 2, I died in Covert Affairs, I die in every... I just want to meet a writer or director that wants to write something for me that keeps me alive till the end.
I gotta tell you one thing. This is a spoiler. You're a clone.
Oh, there you go.
Nobody dies in science fiction.
I have done so many projects, and I always get my ass kicked. The big guy always dies.
Right. So you can die another day.
I just die. I know. He's a killer.
All right. Marilyn, I want to talk to you. You had that one great scene, and I love it. You guys had some great chemistry between you, and you get out some information that's great that gives her a leg up. What's it like acting on the edge of a cliff in the desert? I mean, that seems like it kind of raises the stake as an actress. I'm assuming that was real, or was it?
That was very real. And I am deathly afraid of heights.
Oh.
But the nice thing was that there was a slight little edge, you know,
slow you down before you
yeah.
fall.
So it wasn't like, you know, look down and, you know, it's like, oh my gosh. So it was okay, and plus we were laying down, so I kind of went down a little bit beyond before the cliff, and then just kind of scooted out. So it was good.
You don't actually have to see over. No.
But I loved that scene with Tracy. I mean, it felt great when we were shooting it, but seeing it up there was just like, oh my God, I loved it. And Neil, as soon as the credits rolled, I said to Neil, in his ear, it's like, this is your best yet.
I do have to give props, by the way, to our wonderful DP Kyle right up there.
He looks so beautiful.
And also to Vic Casper, who did the great sound mix, and he's sitting up there. Just give us a wave. Did an amazing job, and we just got the sound mix in 2 days ago, so I'm totally blown away. Thank you to both you guys. Honestly, you really made the film. Thank you.
Right. Tim,
I'm here. Hi.
Nicely done.
Thank you.
I really enjoyed your relationship with everybody. Of course, we love your relationship with your pleasure bot. It's always fun. But you had such a great banter with everyone, including Hoagie, your robot. Hoagie, right here. You look so much taller in real life.
It's the best I ever looked on the screen.
That's right. Great. Well, then let me ask you both. Were you on set? Were you working live together? Or how did you get this alive banter, this real live feeling between the two of you when you're working?
Can I say about like how much
chemistry.
Wow.
That's I guess it's my question. Well, I think at least with when we were casting the film with these two here.
Yeah.
They just had in some chemistry when we were it was just there, and you know, you two guys were just immediately there, and then I guess with Hoagland coming in, you know, it's one of those scenes you put it all together. I did the temporary voice of Hoagland, so
you did. Oh, okay.
So I'm British as well, And so it kind of, he got the beats and the cadences of my voice, and then, I mean, he has his own personality. So he just, you can see this guy purposely, beautifully fits in with the film. So, I mean, it's just blended. It's just a chemistry thing. I knew these three would have chemistry, and these two would have chemistry.
Yeah.
So you just go for the chemistry,
Absolutely.
and with everybody, it's all about chemistry and stuff. And you look for the differences, but you look for the similarities. And, we're all, of the same cloth.
I want to add something to that. With the chemistry, when you're working opposite the robot, you have to create that chemistry inside your own mind.
Yeah.
So with Tim, he created it in his mind because we hadn't cast Tony yet. We didn't know whose voice it was going to be. So like I kept Hoagland in my office and kind of developed a relationship with him. And Tim and I talked about it a lot, how we had to create that. And then they put that in later, but it only has to be real to you. And it was really funny when we finally cast Tony because I would say we listened to about 3,000 actors. And they just couldn't get Hoagland. And it had to have this beat and this playfulness, and that guy right there was brilliant. So, but the chemistry between the robot had to be created in Tim's mind and in my mind, and then when it got put in, then it was magical.
Nice.
So, yeah.
And there was one other good guy who could have done Hoagland, that was Mark Hawes, but then we wanted Mark Hawes for the other scene. So it's, you had to sort of find that
Well, we were actually mad at Mark at the time. And we were having like this little rift thing because it's an actor thing where some people were taking sides and stuff, and it's like, you know what, we're not going to use him. And then I said, I'm really mad at Mark, but I really miss Mark. And then there was this scene, and you had to kind of be mad at them but miss them. And so we were like, let's talk to Mark. And so we told Mark that we were mad at him for some choices that he'd made, but it was okay because it's perfect for the scene. And he's like, I really want to talk about this. No, don't talk about it till after we shoot the scene, because you had to feel that way, But he was the perfect choice for that. And so I'm kind of happy that we had a little rift because it worked.
It's a full-on method scene. Then.
Right? Right, Mark?
Yeah.
Sorry to tell you all that.
We should let these go because it goes off.
So Tim,
well, I want to know if the rift's been resolved. Are you guys friends again or what?
I killed him.
Yeah. Fair enough. Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, good.
So Tim, back to you. I want to talk a little bit about the logistics too. Several of you spent a lot of time on what looked like a very hot, inhospitable planet that looked a lot like a scalding hot desert. And you seem to have the most clothing on of anybody that was in the desert. So I just want to know, what were the circumstances like? Was it colder than it looked, or was it?
It was incredibly hot. It was out at the Salton Sea.
Salton Sea.
Yeah, which is like a decomposing area of the world. It's the only place that actually feels like The Walking Dead. Like humanity just receded from where it was. So when you walk along, there's like fish bones, and it smells, and it's toxic rating by the EPA,
And your boots sink.
and you sink.
Like
yeah,
you step into some chemically looking thing, and all of a sudden your leg just gets swallowed up by it. You're like, oh.
And it's and do you remember like the pink sludge in the McDonald's thing? Like that's what it's that's what you're walking through most of it. And it was like 105 when we were out there.
Some days it was 110 in Mojave.
When we did the soccer ball scene where she headbutts the robot, so we call it the soccer ball scene.
'Cause I used to play soccer, so that last move I really wanted to do.
It was so high. It was like 125 or something.
It was hot.
I mean, it was ridiculous, and I mean, it's
I actually collapsed on the truck that day.
Yeah.
Like passed out on the truck, and then a gust of wind slammed the door on my back and shook me out of it. Yeah, so we went and got more water. Yeah.
Brutal. Man, you guys suffered for this movie. That's gorgeous.
Yeah.
Well, okay, and I wanted to ask you, Tracy, what was it like working with the two hardest things to work with are, so they say in Hollywood, are children, which your children were amazing, and they're not even children anymore. Bravo, guys. And animals. And you had two scenes that looked like two different dogs, right?
It was the same dog, and there was a lot more than two scenes. Yeah, he just kind of blends in seamlessly.
Okay.
So it's actually, he does. It's actually Aaron's dog. Where's Aaron?
Right here.
Oh, okay. It's actually Aaron's dog. And this dog, a lot of the stuff you saw the dog do
the dog just did. And so I'm trying to stay in the moment, and the dog's doing circles around me and jumping around and doing all this stuff. Or when I call him, then he won't come. And he's like, I'll get there when I get there, right? And it was a lot of fun, but it was challenging. I'll tell you an interesting story about it. Is in the beginning of the time that we started shooting, the dog was like, oh, this is fun. I get to ride in the truck over cliffs, and I get to do all this stuff, and we run. And by the time we'd been shooting for a couple of weeks, the movie was so real to us that the dog was so scared, because you know how dogs feel things.
He flipped out.
He flipped out, because for me, when I'm panicking, I knew what was happening. I was completely in the zone then, and the dog would just freak. So we finally started taking the dog out of the car when we do things and just bringing him when we needed the shot, because he was so scared, and we felt bad. Yeah.
That's amazing, because it looked like, did you have to train him at all, Aaron? Because when he ran under her legs.
You know, I've done a lot of training with that dog, but a lot of that stuff he just did on his own. You know, like when he was running under her legs, that was all him.
Wow,
that was all him. It was the weirdest scene, and you know, we didn't have to refilm it or anything, just because he was just so weird. You know, he just kept running and wouldn't stop.
And a lot of that was an aerial shot too.
Yeah.
So he just did it again.
And he was, yeah, he would try and follow the drone, and then he would leave. It was weird. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. Now, Aaron, if you recall, you saw him right at the top of the film. I believe you're the first person that speaks in the whole film. Is that right?
Yeah, first person that speaks, first person that dies.
And first to die.
Yep. I take pride in that. That was kind of nice.
Dubious distinction. Well, actually, though, being the first guy to do anything in here, and also being the first to die, there's a lot of pressure, I would think, on you to set the tone for this dystopian future. At this point, like, if you screw it up, we're limping into the movie. So there's a lot of pressure, I think, on your shoulders. What was it like to have to, I mean, did you even think about, I'm creating this thing. This is the first building block for the whole movie?
No, you know, that didn't even cross my mind. You know, I've grown up acting, and I've been on a lot of sets. I've been on a lot of different things, and it's not something that really crosses your mind, you know? Yeah. I was there, I was present for pretty much every single scene, almost every single scene, along with the dog, and that's just not something you think about, you know? It's exciting, it's fun, when I filmed that, I didn't even know it was going to be the opening scene.
Wow.
I knew it was going to be in the beginning of the film. I did not know it was going to be the actual opening scene, though.
Did you ever think when that bot was coming down to wipe you out, did you ever think, wait a second, I have 6 sniper kits, I could use one right now and take the bot out?
Actually, yeah, I had that very conversation with Neil on set that day about that, you know, and it didn't have time, you know.
Yeah. Now keep in mind, if Aaron didn't die, there wouldn't be the rest of the movie. We needed him to go down. He was the sacrificial lamb to make the movie happen.
Exactly.
That's awesome. Let's see. We just have time for one quick one, if I can find it here. All right. I want to know this is a little bit Neil, and also the actors. Anybody can chime in on this. I want to hear from you too. With your shots that you did, how much did you have previs, and how much did you as the actors just go, okay, well, I'm going to look over there, or I'm going to run this direction? How much control was there on each shot?
I think there's a fair bit of control.
He controlled everything.
Yeah, I mean, you've got to know where to look and what to do, and I mean, it's very, very specific, you know, exactly, and it's to be honest, it's all planned and timed. I mean, you know, Ashley, maybe you could tell us what was it like to be on set, you know, doing this stuff, because
yeah, Neil's wonderful. I mean, he tells us where to look and exactly what to do, so we just follow what he says, and that's what you see on screen.
But I mean, the thing that you also, you know, the thing, I mean, especially with, you know, Ashley and Tim, they had such a nice chemistry. But I mean, for me, I don't know how you guys do it, but you were just magically able to bring these people to life. You know, how do you guys do that? What's your secret?
What's our secret? I don't know. I actually thought it was kind of funny that one of our improv scenes, that was kind of the joke on set, the smell amazing lines.
Oh, I was wondering.
They made it into the film.
Because we didn't.
We definitely didn't.
And it was smelling like dead fish around there anyway. So
Yeah, so it's funny that actually made it into the film, because we were like, no way, no way.
Ashley, what about the time when Daz grabs you around the neck and it looks pretty brutal? How do you choreograph that to make sure you don't get hurt, or did you get hurt?
No, I didn't get hurt at all. He was actually really nice about it. He was like, "Am I hurting you? Are you okay?" I was like, "I'm fine. Don't worry. I'm tough." So it was all good.
It's good. If you got to be choked out by a gentle giant then. Okay. All right. That's about the time that we have. They're bringing in another movie. You guys, I just want to say thank you so much for supporting independent filmmaking, supporting this movie in particular. I loved it. I hope you did too. I know you did. And let's hear one last time for these incredible creators.